The antidote.
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 Y estás escuchando The Antidote.
The antidote.
The antidote.
The antidote.
You're listening to The Antidote with Dave Hawkins.
With Christian music that doesn't suck.
It's just a matter of time. A few days ago I saw you were fine. Remembering what you said about the book you read, the one I got you, the beginning of the end. Oh, how we talked for hours upon end. What I would give just to do it again. You're lying there in this hospital bed. Won't you open your eyes and let's talk once again? Making it seem that there could be hope. I could say to your face, if it weren't for you, that there would be no grace that's covered my life. You took the time to speak into my mind and my heart, words of life. If you fly away tonight, wanna tell you that I love you. I hope that you can hear me.
One of the best-known songs from Disciple is probably also one of their mellowest. Things Left Unsaid from the band's 2005 self-titled album. Thanks so much for joining The Antidote. You know, about this band, it seems hard to believe that Disciple has been at the top of the Christian hard rock scene for almost 2.5 decades. Tonight you'll hear why they're such a significant band. And we also get to meet with Kevin Young, Disciple's vocalist. Kevin and I really had a long talk about the band's longevity, about them going independent, and why their music is significant. But what's even more important is that Kevin and I also had a chance to chat about Disciple's upcoming album, Long Live the Rebels, which is set to release this Friday. It was also cool that Kevin was able to share a couple of the tracks from this really amazing release. Enjoy the music and our talk with Disciple. Kevin Young of Disciple joins The Antidote. Good to have you with us, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, man.
You were a teenager when Disciple began in 92, Kevin.
I still am.
I mean, here it is almost 2.5 decades later. Can you imagine that Disciple ever would have had that kind of longevity?
No. I mean, you dream and fantasize about it, but, you don't actually expect it to happen. I wish I could have gotten a lot more mature and wiser along the way, but so I still feel like a teenager and act like one. So maybe that's a good thing, and maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. But we're very glad to still be around.
Awesome. Well, listen, I'd love to hear about those early days, what they were like. Like, what kind of gigs was the band playing?
Well, we were a lot more low maintenance back then. We were just happy to be doing it. And we're very low maintenance now, but just not that much. I mean, we were, sleeping in a van and playing for free anywhere we could play. And it was a good time, that kind of music. It's hard to recapture, whenever you're first starting out and you're just writing what you really feel. I mean, teenagers are very passionate. And so when they write and express themselves through art, it's usually very powerful. So it was a fun time.
Okay, so I guess that was the beginning. But when would you say that Disciple really hit its stride?
I think that there were actually several moments where we really hit our stride. We signed our first record deal in 1997. That kind of brought us on to a national scene in America as far as Christian rock music was concerned. And then we ended up signing another record deal in 2000 and had some real success there. And so those were, definitely highlights. But then in 2005, we signed our third record deal, and we had already been a band for, a decade at that point, but it was like we were starting over, and we were a new band and new record deal and new musical style. And from there was when we really picked up and saw our fan base grow leaps and bounds.
Yes, I'm filled with a Christmas spirit. Celebrate a jolly red and red. Hope my kids don't find out Santa Claus isn't real. Maybe I should tell them about Jesus instead. Last time I heard about it, didn't come in a Santa outfit. Last time I heard about it, didn't come in a Santa outfit. Santa Claus is dead. Santa Claus is dead. prayers and it might solve some stuff.
Oh, wow. And that bold attitude of Disciple is still a part of the band's music. From the 97 album, My Daddy Can Whip Your Daddy, the song Easter Bunny really lays out the intentions of Disciple. Okay, coming up, Kevin talks about where that focus comes from. The music of Disciple is much more Christ-focused than what we have from most of the artists who come on the Antidote. When you're songwriting, Kevin, what takes top spot? Is it the message or is it the music?
You know, I try not to look at it that way. I just try to be myself and write about whatever I'm going through. You know, as a Christian, you know, my relationship with God is very important to me, as it should be with all Christians, and whatever else someone else in their walk of life, whatever's important to them. When you're true to yourself and you write about what's important, it's just going to naturally come out. But, you know, obviously being a human being, you know, there's sometimes I want to write about, you know, other things. And I try not to limit myself to one topic or, you know, paint myself in a corner. I really try to write about everything. And that's why sometimes our music comes off as very honest and not very Christian. And that's because I think honesty is paramount, you know, of being true to myself. We have a song on the new album called Underdog Fight Song, and it's really just about, you know, all the people that said we would never make it and all the people that said I was less than average growing up, to every teacher I had in high school. You know, this song's to them, and to every single music critic out there that said that our music was garbage. You know, all those words, you know, really just turned into inspiration and turned into fuel. And this one particular day, I guess I was apparently feeling it and decided to write about it.
Don't you find a lot of artists really aren't that honest and they just bring up contrived scenarios that they want to include in a song?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, you know, and I would say that sometimes, you know, when you're an artist, you do write fiction, you know, and that's still art. But I try to lean, you know, 99% more on something that's real to me. Whenever I write a song about something I'm going through, guaranteed, you know, half of my audience relates to that because they've been through it too. You know, there's no experience I'm going to have that's going to be like new under the sun. You know, so when I write about something that I'm going through, guaranteed, you know, there's just, you know, thousands of people going through the exact same thing. So then that song is able to actually connect on an emotional level with, you know, our listeners, as opposed to just coming up with something, you know, contrived in fiction. You know, there's a place for that too, and I try that every once in a while, but you know, we really are more just coming from a place of experience and honesty.
Shooting your mouth up from a castle made of lies. How can I repay you for the wisdom behind your holy condescending eyes? You put your gun in your holster and a chip on my shoulder with a fuel that turned to fire. Well, I've never won
2-track Underdog fight song from Disciple's upcoming album, Long Live the Rebels. The music of Disciple, I've heard it described as being hard rock, being metal, and being everything in between. I love squeezing everybody into a specific box. So, how would you describe Disciple?
Well, I hate to disappoint you. You know, we really want to write songs that we like, and you know, all the guys in the band are all extremely, you know, different with different tastes and different likes. And the one thing that I've always stressed to our team is we just want to write songs that are good. Writing a certain style is not as important as writing a song that's good. You know, if we want to write a pop song, which we have a pop song on this new album, then it's not about was it a pop song or was it a rock song? It's about was it a good song? You know, if we want to write a country song or something that has a rap feel to it, you know, I mean, even if we try our hand at something that's a little hip hop, it's going to turn out rock. But we are big metal fans too, and so we always, you know, teeter on the side of you know, being metal. We don't really ever sit down and write a song thinking it needs to be a certain style. We just want to sit down and write a song and hope that it's good. And we know if we think it's good, then there's a good chance that other people will think it is good too.
Well, man, that just brought to mind an old Disciple song that I remember. You guys did Amazing Grace with this blues vibe to it.
That's right, yeah. Our original guitar player is a huge blues fan, big Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, and you know, that was something that was really in his wheelhouse. He just was a really good, you know, soloist, and yeah, it was a fun song to do. It was just, you know, our take on Amazing Grace, and of course, it's just such a popular song, you know, outside of the church. Everybody knows the song, so you play it, and whether you're playing it in a bar, a high school, or church, whatever, always a great response.
Well, maybe that's just going to have to be a future plan. You'll just take a bunch of hymns and do a rock or metal twist to it.
I don't know. Maybe. I guess I'll have to think about it. Doing one song was enough back then. Doing a group of them, I don't know. That's a lot. But we might pull one out again and see what happens.
It was amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Well, now, since we're talking about some of the stuff that's happened in the past, I don't want to ignore any of your other releases, but I've heard many people, and this includes myself, called Disciples' '06 release, Scars Remain, as the perfect album. What made that release stand out so much?
Wow. Man, I think, you hear a lot of people in the industry say this, and it was one of those times where we actually were able to deliver. They say it's all about the song. And I think we just had some really, really special songs on that album. It had a lot of emotion, it had a lot of passion, and it definitely was what I was just talking about. It has some slow songs on there. You can't fit it into a box, and it has some really aggressive, passionate metal songs on there. Scars Remain being one of them. And, those songs, when you write a good song, it has the ability to stand the test of time, that, meaning that it was good in 2006 and it's good 10 years later. A lot of those songs we still play live today because of that. As an artist, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, you try to do it every time you write an album, but it's not an easy thing to do. Not every song you write is a masterpiece, even though you want it to be. It's just not. But that album is very special and always will be.
Are you ready for some aggression? Game On from Scars Remain.
When the lights go up and the game is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. When the bell rings out and the fight is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. When the lights go up and the game is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. When the bell rings out and the fight is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. It's time for us to start throwing down. Take a look and see who's standing now. Standing now. Didn't even know that you would never cross until a sneak attack from the weak side. Unaware that we were in a fight. I guess that's part of the problem. But guess what? When the lights go up and the game is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. When the bell rings out and the fight is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. It's time for us to start throwing down. Just look and see who's standing now. See who's standing now. Say what you wanna say about me. Throw a punch you wanna throw at me. But when you mess with those that are around me, that's when you and I will have a problem. When the lights go up and the game is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. When the bell rings out and the fight is on, are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you. It's time for us to start throwing down. Just look and see who's standing now. See who's standing now. I'm not afraid of loving my enemies, turning the other cheek, blessing those who would curse me. I honestly want peace with you. When you come against my country, when you come against my family, you try to destroy my people, and I can't just stand by. There's no way that I can stand by. This time I will not stand by. I am coming, and if I come, this pain is coming with me. Oh, I'm coming and break up and with me. When the bell rings out, this fight is on. Are you ready for me? 'Cause I'm ready for you.
each of your releases really have been successful. It's got to be tough not just to fall into that hole and just simply churn out a clone of each previous record. Like, what do you have to do to keep it fresh?
Yeah, I'd say in 2012 when we were doing Oh God Save Us All album, I hit a wall with not really knowing what to write about. Our record deal was over with the record label that we were on, and we were wanting to decide whether we wanted to go independent, which we had done since 2003, or release our next album on a record label. And we really decided to do it independent because even being on a Christian label, you still have to kind of run your lyrics and your music through the powers that be. And I was really, really tired of that. I was really tired of having all of our songs micromanaged and told what songs could go on the record and what songs couldn't go on the record. And so having that freedom in 2014 when we did our album Attack, I was really revived, really renewed and refreshed, and as a Christian was very passionate and fired up about my faith writing that album. And, we're probably bolder than we have been since the beginning. And I think just that scenario created the perfect storm for us to just get fired up and just write some songs that we were really, really passionate about. Once we got that out of our system, moving into this next album, all the guys in the band that are in the band right now have been in the band for about 4 or 5 years. And so this would be their second time writing a full-length album with us. And they were just excited and energized. And it was easy to be fresh, as you would say, because we were just kind of hitting our stride with each other. And people were writing songs, and they just didn't sound like any other Disciple song that's ever been written. And it was just, walking around with big smiles on our faces. It was never work because we were having a great time doing what we were doing. I don't think that we intentionally tried to keep it fresh. It just naturally happened that way the last, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I've heard you describing your current band lineup as Disciple 3.0. So it's really been a significant different version of the band compared to 1.0 and 2.0?
Obviously I can give you the political answer because there's obvious things that are differences that may not be flattering to some, but Disciple 1.0, that's the original guys. That's the original 3. We started the band together, and those guys will always be very special. And we were together for around 15 years, and it's hard to be in a band forever. People grow up and people want to start families and actually make money doing something. So being in a band is one of those things that it's not an easy thing to continue, especially like you get married and your wife is usually smarter than you are and says, hey, that we have a house payment and bills to pay, and this band thing is not going to do that. And so it's hard to keep that going. And the second group of guys, another very special group of guys, but we never really were on the same page. We were so different that it really kept us from working together and creating something. We were able to actually create an amazing album, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, in spite of that. But I think, just not being able to get on the same page and really be a team with each other really kind of helped make it an easy decision when guys, wanted to go and do other things. But these guys that are in the band now, from day one, we're very passionate about what Disciple is about, very passionate about what we were trying to accomplish. And, we're all on the same page, and we're a team, and we love hanging out with each other, going to eat with each other, going to the movies together. They're my best friends in the world. And, that's definitely something that, the other versions of the Disciple never had. And so it's something very special that we really, love each other and love being around each other. And it shows up on stage, people know. It's definitely a very, very special time, in our band. Hey, this is Kevin Young with the band Disciple, and you have discovered the antidote.
Till the day I die. Till the day I die. Till the day I die, I'll be radical. just my mouth, but let my hands speak the glory of God. Not just my mouth, but let my hands speak the glory of God. Not just my mouth, but let my hands speak the glory of God. Not just my mouth, but let my hands speak the glory of God. Till the day I die, with my heart, with my soul. Till the day I die, I'll be radical. With my blood, with my bones. Till the day I die, I'll be radical. To my friends, to my foes. Till the day I die, I'll be radical. With my heart, with my soul. Till the day I die, I'll be radical.
Well, now you've got something new coming out. Disciple's about to release your new album, Long Live the Rebels, this Friday, October
That's right.
14th. Now, I've totally lost track. Which album number is this?
If you count the EPs, it's going to be our 13th project. If you don't count the EPs, it's our 11th full length.
Well, now, are you giving the album like a particular theme, or is it a collection of songs and thoughts?
I don't think any album we've ever put out has a particular theme. I think every single song kind of stands alone and says what it wants to say, and then the next track is going to start over and be the beginning of a new idea and a new thought. So no, there's definitely not a theme on this record, even though there are ideas that kind of bleed into one another. It's never intentional. We're not that smart. We're not that smart and well thought out. You know, the way that we decide what makes the record is, like I said earlier, it's like whatever we feel the best songs are. Every album, we just try to write about 30 to 40 songs and whittle them down to about 10 to 12.
Wow.
And so there's like, you know, literally hundreds of Disciple songs that are out there that have been written and recorded that no one has ever heard. But that's the way that we like to do it, you know, because if you only write 10, 11, 12 songs, you know, you may have a handful of good ones or just two or three good ones and then a whole bunch of okay ones. But if you write 30 or 40, then it's easier to pick out the ones that are just okay and which ones are the ones that rise to the top. That's the way we like to do it.
So we're not going to see those come out as a B-side album some date in the future?
You might. I mean, now that we're independent, we kind of get to do whatever we want. And, you know, our Vultures EP, those songs didn't come out on Attack. They just sounded so different. They were just from a darker place and just felt like they didn't fit with the feel of the album.
And it really is a solid EP.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, and we just felt like they actually had more in common with each other than they had with the Attack album. And so we just saved them. And we talked about releasing them on their own. And then after talking about it, we were like, let's just do it. And we did.
The first words I learned, born in the absence of hope. Trust wasn't something I'd ever dreamed of. In the nightmare ahead,
Awakening from the Vultures EP. And now it's time to hear more from Kevin Young about creating the new Disciples album, Long Live the Rebels. And we'll also hear the new single from the release, God Is With Us. In the past, Disciples had really a legendary producer, Travis Wyrick, for many of your albums. For Long Live the Rebels, you moved to really another legend, and somebody who's been a guest on The Antidote also, Aaron Sprinkle. How different was it working with Aaron?
Oh, it's very different. All the producers that we've worked with have all been extremely different. Speaking of Travis, we started working with him back in 1995, so a really long time ago. And we were the first band that he ever produced that wasn't his own band. And he was not a Christian when we first started working with him. And then I think like 2 or 3 years later, just hanging around with us and all that. That's how he words it, just hanging around with us. I guess rubbed off on him, and the reason that he ended up giving his life, to Christ. And so that was a really cool thing. And he just kind of became like a member of the band, and still is to this day in a lot of ways. And Aaron, we'd never really met him until we had already kind of signed on and agreed to work with him. And we all sat down in a room with him. And the first day was kind of weird, because we didn't really know him very well. And I mean, by the second day, he was like one of our best friends, and just became, that fifth band member, and that's exactly how we want our producer to be, is just to be in the band and, to take it personally and to, take ownership of the music. And he did that, man. And we loved it. He's so funny and so fun. I mean, I think we laughed, more than we worked on this album. We just really, really had a good time.
Okay, having a producer like Aaron, does he really have a specific input or effect on your album?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that great producers do is I like to think that they take a good song and make it great. If they're able to do their job well, that's how I see their role. And, we do our best to try to make our songs as good as we can make them. And then we basically take them to the producer and lay the song at their feet and say, what can you do with this? It was really awesome to see some of the things that Aaron would do. And he for the most part, left a lot of them alone, but just added these really cool elements that just took the song to a whole new place. One of the biggest fingerprint that Aaron had was a song called God Is With Us, which is our first radio single. And it was good, but it was just missing some things. And Aaron really kind of rearranged the chord progression of the verses and, some of the melodies, and just really made it a much better song, with just listenable and singable and all those things. And, that's what you hope for.
Their words cannot stand against us, for God is with us, God is with us. This desert is a wicked place, I'm weary from this wretched chase. So where does my help come from? My enemies are strengthening every hour like a plague away. give up, for God is with us. Our God is with us. God is with us. God is with us. God is with us. We won't be afraid. He's with us. Yeah, their word cannot stand against us. For God is with us. God is with us. Their words cannot stand against us. For God is with us. God is with us. Cannot stand against us. God is with
One of the songs from Long Live the Rebels I absolutely adore is A Race. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah, I mean, it really is a song about God's relationship with mankind. That, we all have moments being human beings where we make mistakes. And when those mistakes become a really big, huge, major mistake, in humanity, it's very difficult to forgive yourself. People talk about how difficult it is to forgive others. Sometimes in life, it's infinitely harder to forgive yourself. And, we meet a lot of people who struggle with self-mutilation, cutting themselves, and suicidal thoughts and depression, and some of it, comes from that, those mistakes and the shame and the guilt of, past actions and mistakes. And that's kind of the message of God and humanity is really the lyric of the song is that, when you say that you're not okay, God's speaking to us. He says, when you say that you're not okay, my heart, breaks to heal your pain. And I think that's really God's desire in humanity is to heal us and to take us that are broken and bind up our wounds and make us whole and show us his love, not just so that we would receive it, but we would also learn how to love how he loves, because love is the thing, man, that'll change the world. It'll conquer the world. And whenever we receive his love, there comes a point where, we stop just receiving it and we actually begin to turn around and give it. And I think that's the ultimate plan that God has for humanity, because love is that thing that it's an unstoppable force. It cannot be quenched, and it ultimately will change the world. No matter what you think and no matter what you believe, love is always the answer.
your eyes and look into mine. Try to see what I see. Your mind has not been a friend. It shows you within and makes truth look like a demon. Rewinding these memories, suffering every night. Oh, I've been watching you, hoping you would see the truth and run to the light. When you say you're not okay, my heart it breaks to heal your pain. I will erase your yesterday. You'll be okay. My love is greater than your mistake. I can't make you believe shame doesn't have to be your true identity. I still will not go away as long as it takes. I will keep your soul breathing. When you say you're not okay, my heart it breaks to heal your pain. I will erase your yesterday. You'll be okay. My love is
With songs like Erase, it looks like Long Live the Rebels has turned out to be a must-have album from Disciple. It releases this Friday, and it should be able to find it everywhere. Well, Disciple may be one of those really well-known bands, but many of the really incredibly talented artists we feature on The Antidote come from the underground scene. One of those is our guest next week. Even Oxen has been described as one of the most unique sounding artists to come out of 2015. And the sound of Even Oxen is hard to define. It has this blending of genres like indie folk, worship, noise, and power electronics, and it all merges into a really brilliant music style. Berenstain comes for a talk about his unusual style next week on The Antidote. Be sure to listen in. Well, I have one last song and one last part of my talk with Kevin and Disciple. Enjoy this, and we'll see you next week. Kevin, I often ask our guests on The Antidote to give a song to finish the show. What about picking out a Disciple track from the past to finish us off?
Well, I've always thought that Fight for Love was a really cool song from Scars Remain, and be a good song to kind of make somebody want to drive fast while they are listening to the show.
And they'll send you the speeding ticket.
Just send me the speeding ticket, and I'll take care of it.
Well, listen, Kevin, it's been a real pleasure having you on The Antidote, man. Thanks for spending time with us.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for the opportunity. It means a lot. Appreciate you playing our music.
The body's falling, and my heart is breaking.